Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So today's my topic is to emphasize the developing risk-sensitive land is plan for disaster risk reduction and intervention. So I'm giving a talk with reference to a case study from Nepal. So during the overview, so I'd like to simply just give the acknowledge of this research project. This is the pilot project. This funded by USA Tayar Nepal program and under the contractor we are from DAI Global LLC, and then with the Rajdevi, I was the disaster geohazard expert and then project coordinator. And then we have the international partners from AIT, where Geoinformatics Center of Asian Institute of Technology, Dr. Manjur Kumar Hazarika, and from Faculty of Geoinformatics Science and Observations of the University of Twente, Netherlands, Professor Van Wisten. They are the most famous GIS experts, and then this disaster and then geoinformatics and the landslide experts from the global. So we have very much privileged the team for this project. So I would like to go for this. We had the two municipalities to carry out about this risk-sensitive land use plan. So among them, so today I'm going to talk about the only one municipality. So it is called Lamkichua municipality. It's in the far western Nepal in the province one. So in the today's talk, what I have aimed at, I have four objectives to present you here in the short. So first of all, I would like to show about the how we gather the data for in terms of disaster risk. So we can say that disaster risk interventions. The main objective is to comprehend the in terms of municipal context. So how many disasters, how they are related, and then how they are intervened to the local societies of that municipality. So we need to collect the data from the historical and the geoinformatics, both sites from the specially and from the site visits. So one part is there, and then based on that, and then using the geospatial tools, using the we can say that Arc Pro, and then Elvis, we carried out the multi-hazard risk assessment of the whole entire municipality, and then users of that MHRA we try to implement of the results of the multi-hazard risk assessment, combined hazard, intervening the disaster risk in the reductions to develop the risk-sensitive land use plan for the better urban planning. And then we gave the urban planning, or can say risk-sensitive land use plan, projected to the 2030 and 2050. So 20 years, further extensions for the urban planning sector. So while I go through these very interesting topics here that you can see here in the left corner, here is the house. This is just the foot of the hill of the Himalaya main frontal thrust. And this is the plain land. So you can see a huge rock boulder is fell down from the debris floor landslides. And then after 9 months, when I visited here again, I can see here the twin houses, and this boulder disappeared. In the such hazards, areas, people never care about those hazards which can occur frequently, right? And they built up the settlement area here, the twin houses, and they started staying there. So this is the conditions in the rural areas. So if we don't teach them, if we don't train them, it will be a highly risk for their life and property. So this is the example that I would like to show in my first slide. So what we did that I explained in the objectives, we check the major past disaster impacts on that entire municipality from 1981 to 2021 of that in municipality. So, and then we categorize the ranking first, second, and third. So what we check human losses, number of houses damaged, and then livestock. So how many periods occurred? How many events occurred there? This is the summarized table that I'm showing here. I just go to for quick quickly. And then I'd like to show the methodology on it. So what we did that in the first phase, we did the preparations and conceptualizations phase. And then we did the workshop during that time. And then we collect the informations, we make the team, and then we go to the phase second for the data collection and the sharing the multi-hazard risk assessment. So what we did in the historical and physical data collection we carried out, and then we carried out the hazard analysis, multi-hazard analysis, the vulnerability, exposure, loss, damage, capacity, all these things. And then we try to check it on in terms of socioeconomic, demographic, all these things. And then we went to the project, these growth and based on growth and demand analysis, based on population, land infrastructures, spatial growth, etc. And then we prepared the land risk sensitive land use plan further 2030 and then 2050. How can we give the resilient urban planning based on that? We prepared the land use policy, planning regulations, and building bylaws, and then we intervening the disaster risk reduction of the entire municipality. So you can see here we carried out three workshops also. Based on that, we prepare all those risk-sensitive land use plans. So as we are familiar with this, how to prepare the hazard, element at risk maps, vulnerability, losses, risk, these are the basic scientific approach that we all know about these when we carry out the hazard assessment. So I'm not going to explain on details due to the lack of times. And then based on this, that as we know that what is the risk, what is hazard, we need the vulnerability, exposure of the different level individual hazards based on that available disaster and hazards in the entire municipality. So what we have found seven, eight types of hazards over there, like earthquake, flood, windstorm, landslides, animal attacks, fire, all these things. We prepare the individual maps, hazard risk map, all those things. And then as a result, we found this combined hazard map like this. This is the final result I'm showing in the at the first of this MHRA. This is the measure methodology we carried out during our research. And then these are the detailed explanation how we overlay and then how we check the average annual loss in the how to calculate the annual loss and then compare and then in terms of the how we built up the areas which is high hazard, moderate hazard, or risk-free zones. So these are the detailed explanations to carry out the MHRE in the project. So these are the summary of the hazards, as I said, that which modeling method we use, and then which software we used, and then what are the output of those results that I have tabulated here. I'm not going to explain in its detail, so I'm going to show the final results of these hazard assessment. So if we see here, if we check the individual hazards we carried out flood, 50-year return periods, 25, 50, 100 years. These are some of the examples of the each municipalities we checked, right? Landslide susceptibility map, windstorm for the 25 years, agricultural area loss, right? And then we check the earthquake for the 475 years of return period in terms of building loss, in terms of population loss, and fire susceptibility map, and so on. And then we combine all these maps together to form the results multi-hazard risk assessment. We combine all those things of the entire university and entire municipality. And then we found it out the high hazard zone, moderate hazard zone, and then low hazard zone. If we see here in the map, we found that the high hazard in the municipality is 13%, and then most safest are 46%. Luckily, it's very good. And then it's a plain land here. Mountain areas are in the northern sections. So this is the result of combined hazard map. You can say that multi-hazard risk assessment results was. So this is the basic map that we have prepared for the entire municipality. Now, based on that, we have to check not only this, on those hazards, how the elements are at the risk. So we have to analyze that. For example, elements in the buildings, individual buildings of the area, populations, households, right? And then we need to check the agricultural and road as well. So these are the four elements at risk: building, population, agriculture, and roads. And then what we did that building footprint survey, household survey, and then all these things we have categorized, and then we categorized the typologies of the houses, and then we gave the codes here. If we see some of the examples here in this municipality, these kind of houses are over there, like reinforced concrete RCC, and then load-bearing mud LBM, load-bearing cement LBC, load-bearing wood LBW, and others, and so on. So these are the type of the house, these building typologies are there in the municipality. And then what we did, we checked the exposure assessment results here also using the combined hazard map of the here. And then we checked here in the agricultural area. If you see here with the buildings in terms of agricultural area, in terms of the roads, we determine all the hazards entire the municipality. And then we check the vulnerability as well, physical vulnerability in terms of the flood. You can say multidimensional, right? Dynamic scale, we check here the damaging values element at risk with respect to flood, landslide, earthquake, windstorm, right? And then we, through our experts' opinions, also we develop the vulnerabilities, physical vulnerabilities, and then socioeconomic vulnerabilities, environmental vulnerabilities, and we calculate the loss analysis of and give the results in terms of flood loss maps. Flood, like for example, these are the 50 years return periods. So these are the some of the examples that we carried out in details, and then we check the risk analysis again here, animal attacks, fire index, risk index map we prepare, okay? And then we check the spatial urban growth in between until the 2020. This is the result of the 2020. We check that how built up area is increased in that municipality. So we can say that in until 2021, the spatial urban growth increased to 16.3% here. Now, then what we did that we checked the DRI, disaster risk reduction interventions. So what kind of disasters, how many types of disasters are over there, how many hazards are over there, which needs to be intervened, which needs to be mitigate over there. So we prepared those interventions maps there, and then we prepare the action plans and activities here. We give the strategies here. We give the time frame, supporting agents, how much and who will provide the budgets and resources. All these we compile, we checked, and then we, in terms of finance, this is the one example that how financial activities should be involved through different sectors for each wards, from 1 to 10 wards. So that we prepared this conceptualized framework, and then we worked on it, and then we again tried. So this is the same, sorry, the same, and then we checked what will happen if in that municipality until 2030 and then 2050. So what we found that population growth trend here, you can see here in 2030, 1.88%, and then for 2050, 2.25%. It is increasing in the rate, right? So based on that, now we need to check, we need to do the risk sensitive land use plan. So what we do, we identify the hazard area. So red zones, as far as possible, we avoid. And in the yellow zone, we do the develop there with control. And then we promote for the non-hazardous area. And then what we do here, protect no built areas in the red zone, land use, innovative zoning, regional planning, we don't do there. And then in the control, if we can do the controlling here, we need to control and then develop there. Based on that, we can do the sustainable, resilient urban plans. So based on this, we propose the risk sensitive land use map of the area. So here, if you see here, the two zone in the purple color is for up to the 2030 nodal base, and for the yellow zone up to the 2050. So here, based on the disaster type, hazard type, this multi-hazard risks, that we prepare the primary node development sector, secondary development node development sector, and tertiary development sector. For the primary node development sector, what we do that for central development, where it can be the huge infrastructures, corporate buildings, all those should be in the primary node. And the other things we have to focus in the secondary and tertiary. Based on that, we propose the mass major transportation network also. If you see here, we check the major high risk area, and then we identify all those interventions, and then we propose for the urban development using applying this multi-hazard risk assessment and then risk sensitive land use plan. So these are the final prepared master plan of the development nodes for 2030 and 2050, overlaid on multi-hazard risk assessment. So if you see here, based on that, what we did, we checked the network linking over there, various nodes, how much road right of way we have to give for the major highways, like a 50-meter road, and then for the arterial 30-meter, and then for the feeder roads also 30, and the sub arterial road we give the right of way up to 20-meter like this. And then we check the capacity of the future population based on future population growth. If we see here in total, we can find for the 2030 and 50 accumulated these populations is given here in the red figure marks, right? These are the zones, how we collect there. And these are the municipal DRR targets based on national and provincial target. So we defined all these things. And then we gave the sectoral plans for agriculture and environment based on the neighboring countries like India. We have the neighboring country from here. It's very near India. So what are the input materials we require? What are the input and for the farming, for the cultivation and for the harvesting? What we can get and how we process and distribute and how can we go for the marketing and then for the consumers in an effective way. So, and then for the water and environment also to protect the ecological environment. So how many bioengineering, ecological aspect, and then civil engineering structures should be implemented to protect the from the disasters and to protect the water and environment sectors. These are the sectoral plans we gave in terms of agriculture and water and environment. And based on that, we gave the planning regulations, building bylaws. These are the examples how we did for the 2000 up to 2030 and for 2050 based on like this. So these are the building bylaws, and then proposed land use policy based on that. How can we go through it? And then we also gave the time period for the monitoring and the effective evaluation to give the better or resilient urban planning of that municipality. And then this is the conclusion that we can say that what are the challenges, right? What are the challenges? What we learn? We learn from the multi-hazard risk assessment. What are the demand? What are the supply we need to give? How we need to overlay? How can we overcome the hazard vulnerability, coping capacity of the each hazards? So these are the lessons learned during the things. And then way forward is that we need to transfer all these overlays into the cadastral map and they carry out the activities. As I still to mention, explain in the first slide that now this national framework based on our results have already been prepared. And then based on that, up to 753 municipalities can carry out based on our research results to make a more efficient, resilient urban planning. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind attention.